Greetings and salutations, dear viewers. Welcome once again to the realm of Final Fantasy XIV. Now that we're equipped in all item level 80 gear, I've already shown you turn 1 of the Binding Coil of Bahamut, so let's get some more item level 90 gear and tackle the Extreme Mode Primals. Today we're looking at the Howling Eye, Garuda Extreme. You can Duty Finder this up, but I wouldn't exactly expect a win out of it. Instead, if you actually want to win, I would suggest using the Party Finder, as usual. However, I will also say if you are a melee DPS, you will have an exceptionally difficult time with this fight, to the point that I actually feel if you were lucky enough to get a Duty Finder group with no melee DPS, they may actually have a chance at winning this. I suggest bringing in only one melee DPS, which is going to make things a little more difficult. I suggest this because there are strategies out there to attempt this fight with more melee. However, nobody uses them because it's much easier to simply bring in a fair number of ranged DPS. I got very frustrated dealing with this fight, to the point that I was almost on my way out to go level up Bard or Black Mage or something, before I finally got my first win. It's unreasonable, is what it is. But I'll be addressing that a little bit more later. At the moment, I would like to explain something very quickly about the fight, in that things have changed, how they change, since the hard mode of the fight. I think this is the first time in this series that I've addressed a more difficult version of existing content, and no, they did not take the lazy route out and simply make things do more damage. This is a brand new fight with brand new mechanics. The fight is generally divided into two portions, before and after Garuda uses her ultimate. Of course, after she uses it the first time, when she completes her rotation, she will continue to keep using it. However, the pattern is still roughly the same. I shouldn't even say roughly. The pattern is still the same. Now, between the first and second parts of the fight, the other issue, then, is that the sisters do return, Suparna and Sharada. However, they serve a very different purpose than they served in the hard mode fight. You see, in this one, Sharada does not heal Garuda, and Suparna does not add a buff to her. I shouldn't even say that, because in the hard mode fight, you had to look at the color of the tether connecting them. Their roles would often switch. In the extreme mode fight, their roles are always static. Suparna is always connected directly to Garuda via a red cord. Sharada is always connected directly to Suparna via a green cord. Now, as long as that green cord is connected, Sharada grants Suparna a number of abilities. And then as long as the red cord is connected, Suparna grants Garuda a number of abilities. So you want to attack Sharada first, since Sharada is the one who uses none of these, followed by Suparna, followed by Garuda, when it gets to that. That is, of course, when we get to it. So let's go ahead and skip forward to once we've figured our crap out and are ready to get going. The queue is up, so hit OK. You're greeted to the same cutscene that introduced you to the hard mode fight. At least I'm pretty sure it is. I haven't actually watched it. You see, as much as I told you to not skip the cutscene during the hard mode, I want to do as little as possible to embarrass myself in this fight, because I'm very likely to embarrass myself in this fight. If for no other reason, then this is so geared towards not melee. But again, I'll get to that later. Keeping in mind that since you are bringing a melee DPS along, be prepared to die. And now that we've got that out of our system, let's do this for realsy this time. Now, I will actually note the reason we died that last time is because I think one of our people was disconnecting. So he was just standing there doing nothing at all. I think it was one of our tanks, actually. So yeah, that'll do it. Yep, there goes one of our tanks now. Though he was just standing there, he was disconnecting. He finally dropped out here. So it'll take him just a moment to, now that he's actually dropped out, it'll take him just a moment to log back in, and we can get going and do this for real. He returns, though is tempting, disconnecting again, but let's do this one way or the other. Now, diving into Garuda at the start, I of course tend to wait for the tank to get a little bit of hate before I dash my sorry butt in, and just wail on her. I wouldn't pop any cooldowns just yet, because she's not going to be disappearing anytime soon. But feel free to just do as much damage as you can, because you're going to want to get as much damage as you can in. There is a soft DPS check coming up, so every little bit you can squeeze out on Garuda herself before then is for the best. Now, after you beat on her for a little bit, eventually she'll disappear up into the air and summon a whirlwind about. Of note is she'll also do that when she returns, so hide behind the rocks. Really jam yourself back there, too. She summons the Satin Plumes again, so you want to kill the Satin Plume as fast as possible. Now, since we have a lot of ranged DPS, really everybody but me, I'm going to kill the Satin Plume and then get right back on Garuda. I'm going to do a lot more good DPSing down Garuda than I will trying to run back and forth between all the other plumes. Because once again, this is the soft DPS check. If you don't kill her fast enough, she'll fly up into the air, come back down on another side, and do the large sweeping AoE again, which will damage your rocks even more, which means you're very unlikely to survive her ultimate. Now, once you do enough damage to her, she'll scream out, "Die, die, die," and summon the two sisters. And there they go. Now, of course, I'm attacking Sharada first. The tank will grab her and pull her south. You actually want Sharada as far from Suparna as physically possible. The closer they are, the more stacks they get on each other of a status effect that grants them a defense bonus, and I think an offense up, but don't quote me on that. So if you pull them far enough away from each other, pretty much the opposite corner of the arena, you can beat on them easy enough. Sharada doesn't really do anything of too big note. She does have friction. Suparna, on the other hand, as long as Sharada is alive, does have Wicked Wheel. Now, Suparna, as long as Suparna is alive, grants Garuda the ability to do Wicked Wheel. Now, people have told me many times that there is a strict rotation, and you can interpret when they're going to be using Wicked Wheel, so you can dodge out of the way of it in time. There is no cast time, there is no prep for it, nothing. I have tried. There is not a strict rotation. I have seen it come before and after and at odd intervals. In turn, this is why I've actually enabled the viewing of skills used by engaged enemies in the chat log. While I was across the arena fighting Sharada, I looked down and I saw them use Wicked Wheel. Now, I knew right after they used it, it would be a little while before they used it again, so I could run over and beat on Suparna without any real danger of getting hit by Garuda's Wicked Wheel. Now comes the ultimate, of course. Well, once you beat down Suparna, you will want to then go beat on Garuda. If you don't kill Suparna in time, they will both do their ultimate, which will kill you. Garuda does her ultimate then, and after that the rocks are cleared and we all have to group up on Garuda because the plumes come again. All the plumes will now, since they start with hate on somebody, will all move towards Garuda since we all stacked up on Garuda. That way they can AoE down. I was just beating on Garuda the entire time. Now, while this happened, a spiny plume came in as well. One of the tanks, the off tank, provokes it and hauls it off to the side. where they've beaten it down to within an inch of its life. And now they're going to keep it there for a little while. Now, the Spiny Plume actually does require an amount of tank swapping. The longer the Spiny Plume is engaged to a single person, by the way, when Garuda flies up in the air, kill the Spiny Plume right there. It'll explode, so don't stand right next to it, but it'll leave a large area that you want to get into to get an effect on you. Actually watch for the effect in your little bar. You have to stand like dead center and just wait for it. That will give you a wind boost that will let you survive her using her ultimate again. Now for the third part of the fight, and the second part of the second main phase of the fight, she once again summons the two sisters, Sharada and Suparna. The off-tank is going to grab Sharada and drag her to the southeast corner of the map. The main tank is going to grab Suparna and Garuda and haul her to the northwest corner of the map. This is exceptionally dangerous for the main tank, because the main tank is tanking two enemies, both using Wicked Wheel, both using Slipstream. It's very easy for him to die. But with Sharada hauled off into the corner, Sharada's not doing anything but friction that we really have to worry about. Kill Sharada as fast as physically possible. Next, Suparna needs to die. And you'll notice it would appear I'm doing jack all. And that's exactly what I'm doing. This is the biggest reason that it is very difficult for melee in this fight. Because during that particular phase, during the killing Suparna part of this phase, it's suicide for a melee DPS to run over there with Garuda and Suparna. The tank's going to be dodging slipstreams and moving to and fro. And in turn, even if you think you're safe, a rogue slipstream timed at just the wrong time could hit you. It's very difficult to actually time when Wicked Wheel is going to be coming and when you need to dodge it. There's no easy way to get out, even if you could, since you have to wait on the vortexes. The vortexes, by the way, always show up in that plus sign. It's just suicide. Every single time I've gone over there, every single time I've seen another melee go over there, they have died. On rare occasion have I actually been able to survive. And me being alive is going to do a lot more damage than me being dead. So in turn, when it comes to that phase, I have to simply stand back and watch and feel very ineffective. However, I'm watching for them to use Wicked Wheel. As soon as I see Garuda use Wicked Wheel, I will dash over and take out Suparna as fast as possible. You'll notice I'm not really commenting on the fighting at this point, and that is because after the time you fight Suparna and Sharada, Garuda will use her ultimate, and if one of the sisters is still alive, the ultimate will just flat out kill you. But after she uses her ultimate, it goes right back to the plume phase, and the fight goes on and repeats. It will repeat like this until she dies. So now that I get the chance to talk about a couple other things, since once again, this phase will just loop like this. For one, the Spiny Plume. Whoever it's attacking will actually put stacks on that enemy, and though the stacks immediately do nothing, if they hit like 4 stacks or whatever, I forget the exact number, but if they hit a certain number of stacks, the Spiny Plume will use an attack called Super Cyclone that will pretty much kill everyone. So there's an amount of tank swapping involved there. One tank will have to haul the Spiny Plume off the other when it happens. Now, as for the vortexes here that I'm dancing to and fro, as with every other area attack, there is but a single instant where it treats that you got hurt by them. Every other time, you can actually run through them without getting hurt. While you're watching the vortex go up, you're safe. while you're watching the feather fall down, you're safe. The time that you have to hit it specifically, or the time you have to be hit by it specifically, is just after the feather disappears, just before the vortex appears. As long as you're not standing there during that exact instant, you are safe standing in the vortexes. However, if you get hit by them, it will hurt and it will knock you around. Now, once again, going back here to beating directly on Garuda. Of note, when Garuda flies up in the air, this is something else I've not mentioned. When Garuda flies up in the air to teleport around, she will actually rain a fair number of area effects down on the ground around where she was. These, if they hit you, will put an effect on you called wind burn. So it will A, hurt, and B, put wind burn on you. Now, wind burn is a very powerful damage over time. You simply don't want to get hit by it. But that's very safe. She uses it here. You see the feathers flying down. It's very simple. Just don't stand next to her when that happens. Now, another thing that will happen is Suparna and Garuda will frequently switch places. They'll fly up in the air and come back down, and when they do, they will have swapped. Now, I don't actually have any personal experience with this, and I don't have a way to prove it immediately correct or wrong, but I believe when you kill Sharada, that stops happening. Because after I've killed Sharada, every time I've watched across the arena, because, heaven help me, I can't do anything but watch, I have never seen them swap places. And this actually goes to the intended strategy for this fight, as well as a much more melee-friendly strategy to this fight, which is, instead of the main tank grabbing Suparna and Garuda, which honestly is suicide for the main tank, and I don't know why people keep doing it. The off-tank grabbing Sharada, it's actually intended to be handled much like hard mode is, where the main tank keeps Garuda, the off-tank grabs Suparna, and all the DPS pile on Sharada. Now, if I am correct, and they do not disappear, or if I am correct and they do not switch places, and there we go. After Sharada is killed, then the main tank and the off-tank will just have to keep in mind that when they fly up and come back down, they'll suddenly have the other one in front of them. By then, by the time Sharada is killed, Suparna is on the opposite side of the arena from Garuda, which will then let the DPS, melee included, beat on Suparna without worry or fear, and then finally end on Garuda. However, because people don't like trying things new, and people figured out, oh, if we just take all range to it, we can just do it this way, it's continued to be this way, and melee continues to be very ineffective in this fight. Did get the Nightmare Whistle as the drop. Also, a item level 90 ring will drop from this fight. Oh well, that's the first extreme mode primal down. There are still 3 more to come. And, add to that, now that 2.2 has come around, the Echo buff has been put into play, which should make these fights a lot easier. This was actually recorded pre-2.2, which tells you, once again, how long ago half of these were recorded. Which means we had no Echo buff to pull back on, and things hurt. So until next time, everyone, we're moving forward and getting us some more item level 90 equipment.